Our next presenter is Ailish Enker from Ramboll in the Netherlands. And Ailish is going to talk to us about green ports and sustainability planning for climate change. Ailish.
Good afternoon. This is a great quote that fits quite nicely into a discussion on climate change adaptation. Multiple studies in scientific journals show that 97% or more of climate scientists agree that climate warming trends over the past century are extremely likely due to human activities. If we can mitigate our greenhouse gas emissions in accordance with the Paris Climate Agreement, and if the IPCC is right, the world is still expected to see a global temperature rise of at least 2 degrees. So it is not just a chance that this will happen, but rather we understand that it will happen. I'm not here to talk about why or how to prevent climate change, but rather how ports need to understand the changes that may impact them and how to adapt to them. Ports in particular, as we know, have very expensive infrastructure and they're vital parts of the economy. As such, they should be protected from the potential changes. Superstorm Sandy hit the New York metro area and port operations in 2012. Richard Larrabee, our director at the Port Authority, stated that no one believed there would be a 13-foot storm surge ever in this port, and there was. I talked to people who have lived here for 30 years or more, who said they never feared for their lives, but they did that night. With an increase in storms linked to climate change, these sentiments and concerns are becoming more common. The port's infrastructure was greatly impacted that night. Up to 14,000 new cars were devoured by the rising seawater, and 40% of the port's cargo cranes were temporarily disabled, and some 25,000 trucks were effectively destroyed due to saltwater contamination. There are a number of key climate change impacts that can affect maritime activities. Warming causes changes in primary climate variables such as precipitation and air temperature. These in turn can cause climate impacts, as we know, such as sea level rise, coastal inundation, flooding, and inland drought. These impacts can severely damage port facilities and disrupt port function, resulting in significant emergency and rebuilding costs. For ports, climate change adaptation planning is a relatively new concept, and it is focused on predictive future changes. This involves taking a different approach. Previously, climate change adaptation relied solely on historical data. The emphasis is now on future planning. Unlike previous guidance, ports are now looking at long-term planning of up to 50 or even 100 years from now. And in summary, the science supports the potential for future climate change impacts on the environment, which are further anticipated to impact ports and the maritime industries. Each port's location and operations are recognized as unique and will therefore require development of a climate change adaptation plan specific to its needs in order to offset impacts. In brief, it is recommended that ports establish the context and scope whilst considering vulnerabilities and opportunities, conduct climate analysis looking at the past and the future, undertake a climate risk assessment for their operations and assets, and identify the current level of resilience, and through policy choices, select adaptation options whilst considering stakeholder priorities and values. If a port is not yet geared up to preparing a full adaptation plan, as a minimum, they can start to incorporate adaptation strategies into their upcoming development projects. Thank you.